Okay, hi, sisters and brothers. We're back to take a look at a couple of words that I think are very important in the New Testament, which our whole lives we've been taught about the Comforter, the Holy Spirit. From reading these, you would draw the conclusion that it would have to be Christ as your Comforter and your Holy Spirit. But we're going to delve into really what it's led us to, especially when we bring in the controversy of Zion and what it says in the book of Enoch as well about the Watchers. So we're going to tie that all together. Hopefully we'll do it pretty quick, I hope. Strong's Greek, we'll begin in Strong's Greek 3870. And because I've written it down, I'm not going to go here until I absolutely have to. And I only took partial notes on the second word, so we'll probably have to go in then. So it's a very important word, Strong's Greek 3870. It means to call to one side, to exhort, to encourage, to comfort, to urge. Now, it's a part of the speech is verb, meaning I send for, I summon, I invite, I beseech, I entreat, I beg, I exhort, I admonish, I comfort, encourage, console. Well, that's what the Comforter does, right? From, now it's derived from, this is the origins of the word from the word para or para, P-A-R-A, which means beside, and kaleo, which means to call beside you. So how would you do that? Well, in prayer, we're told, is how you call on the Holy Spirit. That's how you call upon her who is standing beside you. Now, we're going to understand something very important about how we may call that Spirit to us, from right beside us, to help us, to comfort us, to console us. So it says it's corresponding to the Greek Hebrew entries is Hebrew 5162, nakam or nasham, to comfort or to console, a comforter. 3870, parakaleo from 3444, what's this, slash, para, from close beside, and 2564, kaleo, to call, right? Properly make a call from being, in brackets or in quotations, close up and personal. Well, it sounds like someone standing beside us who is very close up and personal, making a call about what? Perhaps about our actions, right? Watch. 3870 again. Personally, make a call. To personally make a call. Refers to believers, offering up evidence that stands up in God's court. Oh, I didn't think you had to. No, I thought Jesus was your little go-between. From what I've been told my whole life, right? He's our go-between. And the more you read this, you get to the understanding that that's exactly what they're trying to claim. They're trying to claim Jesus is your advocate. He's not your advocate. Because what does it say in the book of Enoch? And for those who would say, well, this isn't part of the Bible, it was at one time. Yeah, it was between the Old and New Testament about 200 years ago before they decided to remove it, citing cost. Now, for those who have what's called the Catholic Bible, they are still there, all right? And it is the Apocrypha is what it's called. It includes many, many books that they have now since removed from the Bible. But what does it say in chapter 15 of the book of Enoch? It says, and not he. She answered and said to me, and I heard a voice saying, fear not. It's got Enoch. I'm going to put Baal. Fear not. But no, even Baal don't work there. So I don't know. There's been a lot of lies told. Fear not, thou righteous man. We'll say it was a righteous man. And scribe of righteousness, approach hither and hear my voice. But we know that they really weren't, all right? And go say to the watchers of heaven. What's another word for the watchers? Your gatekeepers. Who owned the gates? The daughters were supposed to own the gates. Who have sent thee to intercede for them. Well, they say Jesus is our advocate. He's the advocate with the Father. But screw you, mother and daughter. I'm not made in Father's image. The creator that created me was my mother. And quite frankly, the creator that created him was mother as well. So they want to say that Father's the great creator. No mother in the heavens, nothing feminine there exists, but they do. And go say to the watcher of heaven who have sent thee to intercede for them, you should intercede for men and not men for you. Now, why? Why would we not want men to intercede for us? Why? Well, let's go back to say Adam, Satan, the accuser. In the beginning, what did he do? He accused the woman. And you know who he did it before? He did it before the throne of God. And that's going to actually take us to this verse in Revelation. Where is it? I had it pulled up. Oh, go down. It is in Revelation 12:10. What does it say? And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of our God, and the power of not his Christ, her anointed one. For the accuser of our sister, who was accused in the beginning, not the brethren. It was the men accusing the women, and they do it daily. They do it daily off of their throne of power that they took from you, yoking you under their religious lie and law system. Yep, that's what this is all going back to. For the accuser, the first man, or Satan is another name for him, Beelzebub, Baal, husband, bridegroom, Lord, master, right? That's what he's calling himself. For the accuser of our sister has finally been cast down. What does it say? I saw Satan fall like lightning. That's the stone smashing the toes on the idol of man as God. Yeah. Which accused them before our God day and night. The them in the Old Testament is an actual word, them, and it's a feminine plural. And they did. He accused us daily, which is why God says, why would you send a man to represent you? Because he's just been accusing you, which is what the controversy of Zion has always been about. You divided my pleasant land. You rejected my scepter. So, where was I going? Let me see here. Accuses them before. Oh, see, now I can't remember where I was heading on that. There was a verse in the Old Testament I wanted to go to. Oh, I was going to Isaiah. Again, to prove who is our accuser in the heavens. And what does the daughter say? I mean, you got to connect it. You got to study. You can't listen to men off the pulpit and their pride preaching themselves as God, daily accusing us, weekly accusing us. At least I heard it. Weekly they would accuse the women. That stupid woman who was beguiled, well, she was accused of being a harlot. Yeah. So 14, what does it say? I like this part because it zeroes us right into the men who tore down her house. That is found in Psalm 77, 74. Yeah. They go into her sanctuary. These are axemen. They were men wielding axes as axemen in a forest, and they were going to cut down all the holy symbols in her temple and all the sanctuaries throughout her land, which was the North Kingdom. This is what the men were up to from the beginning. This was the plan, the devious plan from the rebel, the accuser, the liar, the thief, the man of pride from the very beginning. And he has a seed all over the land. Watch him. That's his seed. Where is it? Yeah. We will start in verse 4 of Isaiah 14. Now, I wasn't going to read this. That thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. Who is the king of Babylon? Baal. What's another name for Baal? Husband. Your husband. Your bridegroom. It's the image that came straight out of the land of Egypt and was taken into the Holy Land as a male god, father, then son. So the first beast here does actually get wiped out, but gets taken in by the second beast, who has all the power of the first beast granted unto it. So it's religion, man-made religion. Man's going to back Christianity. The first beast is going to back Christianity. A lot of our writings here in this second beast has had the power backed from the Jewish God. That's what it's basically coming down to. But so that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, against Baal, and say, how has the oppressor ceased, and the golden city ceased? The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked. What is the staff of the wicked? Well, we're looking at a rod. Now, the woman symbolized the scepter and the crown. Now, that's what she always symbolized. And that meant that she was the actual sovereign of the kingdom. That's what it really means. He rejected the branch, the scepter, that wisdom, our mother, chose to rule this planet through. And he rejected her, and he went to war against her. Is really what you see in the Old Testament when you get your feminine nouns in the right places. And so the staff that he eventually comes up with is a harlot. What happens to the harlot over time is she becomes hid in his heart, which you find her saying in Isaiah 47, right? No one sees me. I will never be widowless or childless, right? All the seed of this world is hers because she's the one that's hid in man's heart, and you're never going to see her revealed. Because she's willing to build him up, which means it places actually the staff in his hand, the rod in his hand, and instead of hers, who is the sovereign of the kingdom, the righteous, not the wicked women that has been actually developed by this man-made system. But daily they accuse us, and they really get off on doing it off the pulpit. They know it empowers them as men on this earth. They know that. That's why they developed this idol of a man in Daniel 2, and actually through violence, they eventually over time cause the women to bow to this idol. So the Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, that's the harlot spirit, and the scepter of the rulers. Yeah, that's what she does. He who smote the people in wrath, yeah, with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger, in pride. Satan's pride, man's pride, couldn't receive the law off of her tongue and accused her. He actually perjures himself in the courts of heaven. And none did hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee. This is what they're saying. And the cedars of Lebanon. Yes, the daughters who are descendants of this branch, saying, since thou art laid down. Since who? Satan. Fallen man. That now we recognize who he truly is and what the mystery of lawlessness is representing. We know what it is. The mystery is that he accused her and took her throne and sphere of power, which was the right to write the law, and subjugated her under him. Now that's the mystery of lawlessness. Since thou art laid down, no feller? What's the feller here? Axeman. No axeman. No axeman. And what were the axemen found doing? They're found cutting the trees down, the women down, in the sanctuary, in representation of wisdom, I think. And we find that, of course, in Psalm 74, I'm pretty sure. So that's why you get, since thou art laid down, no feller, axeman, is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee. So Sheol. They made a covenant with death. That's what they made a covenant with. For to meet thee at thy coming, so it's talking about Satan, earth, the womb of Sheol, will meet Satan when he falls off that throne that he exalted himself to, that Adam, the accuser, exalted himself to her throne of power. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, those who went down into the grave because of him, the liar, the first accuser, the first Adam. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak like one of us? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp. What's pomp? Arrogant pride found in men on the pulpit, accusing daily us sisters in the heavens. You watch them do it. Art thou also become weak as we? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of the vials and the worms is spread unto thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? So what does Jesus really play at? What does Allah, what does Father, Son play at? As if they're the light of the world. Which is why you get the sun shining upon the Shulamite. It's a false light that has besmirched her in a lie. She says, my own vineyard have I not kept. I'm too busy keeping him for him, handing my hosts over to him to build up his male idol that empowers him, puts a yoke on my neck. So, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. We find him doing that in Obadiah 1. We read that in the last video. I will exalt my throne above the stars. We find the stars represented as the glory in Lamentations 2 as daughter Zion. Being cast down, these stars get stamped upon. These are the spiritus mundi. Well, now that means earth spirit, but these are the spirits of these other stars that actually he managed to cast down and stamp upon. And you find them being stamped upon in Daniel chapter 7 or 8. So how exactly do you stamp upon stars? How? So that's how. That's how. When you study, you figure it out. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. That was where the daughters met in the house in the forest of Lebanon. It's going to take you to Psalm 68. It is. And it is a village of women that takes the word out and publishes it. I will ascend above the heights of the cloud. I will be like the Most High. Wisdom. He thinks he's going to be wisdom. Yeah. And people fell for a very long time. Women did. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit, to Sheol. It says, we have made a covenant with death, with Sheol. And with the womb of Sheol are we at agreement when the overflowing scourge comes in to judge us and to wipe away the wicked. We get the understanding that when the witnesses finally rise up in the earth and testify in truth, right? That mother dispatches her army, or she shows up herself on her own throne. So negatively, the males here, the liars wants to say that's overflowing scourge. No, when the army of God comes in, the angels of God, I guess you find that reference really in Revelation when the angel of the Lord comes in for the harvest. That's what that's a reference to, the overflowing scourge. And they said, with the womb of Sheol are we at agreement? We have hid ourselves under a refuge of lie. And so when they come in, they can't touch us because the witness can't witness to what we have done. And it says, we hid when we did it in the Old Testament. It says, when they created these lies, lie upon lie, and hid themselves under the law, this religious law, and yoked their sister, that she can't go forth to deliver her children in the truth. She can't possibly do it. No, we hid when we buried ourselves under this lie. There's no way she's going to figure it out. She's just not gonna. Yet the Spirit watching us from beside us as the Comforter will make a call. A call. Watch. So we'll go back to this. But I mean, we see this. He exalted himself to her throne. So why would you want a man to represent you? She says, you should be representing him. And the reason why she says that, she was the covering to man. We were his glory to protect him from himself, from his own downfall, from his own, ambitious drive. That's actually hate, equivalent to hate. So she says, you don't send a man to represent you. Look what happens when you send a man to represent you. I will be like the Most High, and he's going to stamp on you, and daily he's going to accuse you, is what he's going to do, to keep possession of your throne of power. And yet she says, you don't send a man, you come yourself. If anything, you should be representing him. That's what I gave you in covenant, to teach him the laws of heaven. What went on here? Which is why the controversy of Zion becomes so important, and we have to have an advocate and a comforter. So it takes us again to this word 3870 Strong's Greek, where it says, personally, to make a call from beside, refers to believers offering up evidence. You are God's witnesses in the earth of what happened here. When God, will you stand up for your cause? That's your feminine aspect representing the Holy Spirit. Though we're physical, we're representing the Holy Spirit on earth. So evidence that stands up in God's court. Does this not evidence, not reason? Of course it does. All you got to do is open your eyes. Wisdom says, when I called, you couldn't be bothered to listen to me, to reason out the truth and listen to my instructions, and what will preserve you? Man's law ain't going to preserve you, girls. He's too busy accusing you daily. Watch the men on the pulpit. Watch their actions very closely if you're that thick-headed. Intensely scrutinize every word out of their mouth. Watch them very carefully if you're that thick that you can't look around you and see what they've done with their religious law. They put a yoke on your neck. That's what they have done, to restrain you and your testimony. And when you're able to do that, God will send in the angels, as they're called. And they call them the overflowing scourge in Isaiah 68. And the men are bragging there, they can't come in and touch us because we've hid ourselves under a refuge of lies, a religious lie. And those women that we daily accuse in the heavens is too stupid to figure it out. And you know what? You will be too stupid to figure out as long as you're listening to his bloody head on the pulpit. You are supposed to go in and figure this case out for yourself. You are. It is on us to do this. It's never going to be on them. And then it moves to us to defend them. Look. Their pride and their arrogance, and then their father, Adam, look what he did. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a judgment and many aren't going to be cut away for their wickedness, because many will not be able to turn back to the truth. Many of them in pride will not be able to receive that truth. And so she is so going to send the overflowing scourge. Let's look this up. Hopefully my camera won't go down. Revelation verse, and it's to do with angel in the harvest. If we get it. No, that's not the verse. No. We can read this one, maybe Revelations 14:17. Then another angel came out of the temple of heaven, and she too had a sharp sickle. Not he. And another angel came out from the altar, the angel who has authority over the fire, and she called with a loud voice to the one who had the sharp sickle, put in your sickle and gather the clusters from the vine of the earth, for its grapes are ripe. So the angel swung her sickle across the earth and gathered the grape harvest of the earth and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood flowed from the winepress as high as a horse's bridle. So, yeah, we also see her in Isaiah 63, her garment going red in the winepress, the wrath. So it is this so-called overflowing scourge is the angels of the Lord, or God's army, for lack of it. The skies are going to fill, I think. They're going to darken out the sun and the moon, according to what it says, when that judgment comes. And it's going to be for the wicked. It's going to be for those who refuse to follow in God's law system. And it is so. I mean, that's what the Antichrist, the antinomian is. He's the lawless one. He does not want to put in play the sovereign Lord's law system, which was the woman's law system. That's what you're looking at. So this stands up in God's court. You're a witness. That's what you're supposed to be. It's the root of 3870 is the root of 3875. So this is going to take us to the actual advocate and comforter who is called our legal advocate. Now that takes us to the Koheleth in Ecclesiastes verse 12 that they want to call the preacher. No, it's a female assembler. Go look the word up. A Koheleth who sets the proverbs in order. And when she sets the proverbs in order, her case in order, she says in Psalm 50, I will set the case in order, and I will reprove you, Adam, for your lies and what you told about me in the heavens, you liar. And I'll set the case in order, and you thought I was a man just like you. God says, why would you send a man to represent you? You're not a man. And you can't trust him to represent you. You come yourself. This is a case of the controversy of Zion. I want you to show me what happened from the beginning to the end. Now, she's the beginning and she is the end. She is the stone that was rejected. She's the stone that smashes the toes on the idol in Daniel 2. If you're a Christian who actually wants to study the word and you believe God's word reasons out, then you should be willing to hear what reasons. However, if you're wanting to be cut away with the wicked, then please do stay with your idol-worshipping fools on the pulpit who wants to preach themselves and debase their sister under their religious lie and law system. And if it does not debase you, then I guess you really are blind. So it is the root of 3875, which means a legal advocate. It likewise has legal overtones. This is your representation. It says she is brought before the Ancient of Days. That's our mother wisdom. She and her innocent women, they're called virgins there, but the innocent ones who have received the truth, who have gone into the witnessing aspect, they are witnesses themselves for the truth. They are witnessing to the truth. They are the ones that will speak up and say, yay, this is truth, mother wisdom. This is truth. And so these are your witnesses to the truth of God's law. It is no longer a mystery, the lawlessness. It is not. We get it. We get what it did. So, legal advocate from 3875. Word origin from para and kaleo. Kaleo definition, to call to or for, to exhort and to encourage. I could give all of them, but that would take us a long time to read all of that. So I'm going to go back over here and continue on in Strong's Greek 3870 before we jump to this word. So to console, to encourage, to strengthen by consolation and to comfort. Now, I believe when I was down on my knees all those years ago, and I speak on it in my very first video in Ruth Abbey, which has been over 6 years ago. It's been over 6.5 years ago that I made that video. And I never thought in a million years I'd be here almost 7 years later, still making videos. I never thought that in a million years. I did not know the path that God had put me on at that time. I really didn't. I thought I was going to make 4 videos and be done. I really did. But in that video, I speak of the change that caused me to pick my head up. And that was when I fell to my knees and I just felt, nobody's answering any questions for me. Nobody. And I was sincere in wanting to know the truth. And I felt in my heart that what they were preaching off the pulpit did not address anything about the woman. They actually forbade me from going in and really studying anything feminine that the men hadn't agreed to tell us already, right? And so they were basically dictating to you what religion said and what it didn't say. Well, God doesn't tell you to do that. God tells you to go in and try the Spirit, test the spirits on the pulpit teaching you this. Test it. Go test them. Go see if it holds up. Go see if what you're studying lines up with what they're saying it means. I'll show you whether it does or not, but you've got to allow me to make a personal call. And the Spirit that is standing beside us is our comforter who is watching us. And when they see that great sense of mourning, they make a personal call, I believe. And they start encouraging us. They start showing us the truth. But we have to have a willing heart to be filled with that water. We do. So I fell to my knees and I said, why did you bother? You know, if I'm just a woman with no head of my own, you know, I got to listen to him. And I heard some nasty things said about women off the pulpit at that time. And it didn't reason. This is not what a righteous God sounds like. This is not what a loving God sounds like. It is not. This is what a man sounds like on a pulpit who hates his sister. That's what it sounds like. And the Spirit made a personal call at that time when I was down on my knees crying out that she was going to start showing me that truth because I had finally come to the end of myself. And I wanted to know that truth. And I was willing to listen to her. And I did. I'm so glad I did. So you're willing to receive consolation. You're willing to be comforted. To refresh, you're willing to be cheered. To encourage, you're willing to be strengthened. It combines the idea of exhorting and comforting and encouraging, instructing and teaching. And she did that for me. And so I felt she had done it so that I could help others out as well. And I can tell you that that's the only thing that was in my heart when I began the videos. I thought, look, I can't find, at least I couldn't, maybe it was there, but I could not find the encouragement that I needed as a woman, as a sister. And I said, look, if that's what the Spirit taught me these things so that I could provide it for others, and that's what my anointing should be. To provide that comfort, hopefully, not that I'm the comforter, but I'm certainly one that she uses, hopefully, to do that for the sisters and some of the brethren as well, whose eyes are beginning to open. It takes a real wise, gentle man, in my opinion, to open his eyes and go, this is the truth. Look at what we've done. I mean, and you got to put yourself under the microscope. And that's why I speak on the harlot as harshly as I do. It means putting myself under the microscope as a woman. What have we done? What have we allowed to take place in this world when we should have been standing up? And I'm not saying that we didn't face heavy and hard oppression against men who was willing to use violence against us. And you can clearly see that they have no issues using violence against us. That's what they used to put this on our neck. But at the same time, we kind of backed down from it and we let them do it. And in that process, we broke all apart. And we came just as bad as they do against women. You watch the women. You watch the harlot adversary against us daughters finally starting to stand up for ourselves. They can't say enough bad things. I believe they can beat out their brethren on that department when it comes right down to these wicked women who are the prickats, I call them. You got the pricks. Is it hard to kick against the pricks? No. No, not when you got it figured out. But you not only got your pricks, you got your prickats that you got to fight against. Because they're too dumb to be listening. They have not come to the end of themselves. They haven't. And figured out what this religious law has done to them as women. It has took your dignity from you is what it has done. And so, beseech, call for, urge. So she was beseeching me to listen. She was calling to me. I was calling to her. A seeking Savior, a seeking sinner, one who's turned from mother's law, will soon find what she's seeking for, which is the Spirit that'll guide us into all truths, which is from wisdom. So from parakaleo to call near, invite. I invited the Spirit, the true Holy Spirit within me, and she invited me to hear and to listen. So by imploration, oration, or consolation, beseech, call for, be of good comfort, dear sister. Their lives will be took out of the land when the overflowing scourge, when the angels come in on behalf of our testimony, of our witnessing to the truth, and cut the wicked out of the land. 3875. So now we're going into 3875. This is a very important word. It means advocate and helper, a comforter, a counselor. Well, with the counsel of many, with wise counsel of many, you shall make your war and win. So it was by studying, and I believe the counselor of the wise women around me in the spirit counseled me. I know I've had, and it sounds crazy, but I know I've had no less than 3 at one time around me. I can see them at times at night. I can see little glows, and I've seen 3, and it does actually look like they're wearing outfits. It really does. And at their belts, I usually see things glowing. Usually when I open my eyes right quick, I can catch it. And I've had the color blue, purple, and green is a distinct one that I've seen. And then this odd gold-white color I see. So I tend to see it. I tend to think that the spirit, and it's not men. I mean, when you think that we've all been born with an angel, and they'll say those are all males, you take your showers, you take your baths, you clean, you change. Oh, all with this male angel watching you women. Well, that's kind of a pervy thought all by itself when you really think about it. The spirit that stands beside me is she, my sister, trying to lead me out of the pathway of wickedness, which is the lawless one, his lies, which woman has bowed down to. So 3875, advocate, helper, comforter, counselor. Part of speech, noun, feminine. The comforter is feminine, but not how we have it in our head. She's our advocate, our helper, meaning advocate, intercessor, consoler, helper, derived from the Greek verb meaning to call to one side. So I think when we're in great mourning, we actually call her to our side in a way that is different than just her standing there watching. She actually feels the mourning from us. And then she makes the personal call. Okay, it's time we start feeding, watering her what she needs to know. It's time. It's time. This one's ready. It's time. So they make this personal call. I know, but you do have to look at it this way in a very, practical manner for our brain to comprehend and to really understand it. So our helper, our intercessor, to call to one side, to summon, to comfort. So we're being summoned by the Spirit, but we are summoning the Spirit to us. So it's sort of this double, because, when wisdom summons us to the court case, that you find we are took into her, and we're took there by the Spirit. And that's in our case. Meaning a comforter or a consoler. Though there is no direct one-to-one correspondence in the Old Testament. So that's what it says. It says there's no one-to-one correspondence in the Old Testament. So what I got away from that was the pillar stone. And Jacob, I believe, called that pillar stone basically the comforter, right? That pillar stone. And the pillar appeared on Rachel's grave. This is the only time that a pillar appears on somebody's grave, and it's the woman, because it is the woman that represents the pillar, the stone, that was actually rejected for a harlot. And which is why you get the real stone that was rejected smashing the toes on the image in Daniel 2 of this male idol. So we go here to find a representation of who represents the pillar or the rock. Rock or stone in Old Testament is 68. It's feminine. And let me see. Where is it? Psalm 144, verse 12. What does it say? So 144, verse 12, Psalm. What does it say? That our sons may be as plants, tender plants grown up in their youth. That our daughters may be as cornerstones, polished after the similitude of a palace. The palace is the house in the forest of Lebanon. Now, we actually seen Solomon taking 7 years, King Solomon. We know the number 666 goes back to him. King Solomon took 7 years building the so-called temple. Yeah. But it also states it took him 14 years, 13 and a half. But I'm going to say 14 because that's double. 14 years to build the palace. And what does it say he did? He brought King Pharaoh's daughter up from the city of David into the palace that he had built for her. So we're also told that we will receive a double portion. We get an XY, that's 7. Sort of, I guess. And the palace, it took double that, so we'll say 14 years, and you get an XX. So we know he installed a harlot spirit. Yes, he did. He changed a flock in the midst called Basra to a harlot spirit. After he tore the birthright, the homes of the wise women out of the land, and Jeremiah says in Jeremiah 9, come weep for yourselves, dear daughters, for they have torn your houses down out of the land and have cast you out. They don't want you. So he changed the key of David, is what the righteous daughters are called, over for the key of Solomon, the harlots that will bow to a male idol, which is what the adversary is in the land, to the righteous key of David, who are promised to be reborn out of the dust of the earth. And were reborn when she makes a personal call, standing beside us, watching us. We're being watched every second of our life, and everything that we do, everything that we think is being analyzed by what we call and understand as the spirit, but it's standing, she is standing right beside us, watching everything that we do. And based on those actions, she will make a personal call. Whether she's actually going to call you to her, she's going to come to you and fill you full of those truths. But you have to be willing to hear it. You do. In order to truly be comforted by the Spirit, we have to be willing to hear her and to test the spirits. Right? God says, I gave you my daughter in covenant to teach you the law of heaven so that I might bring you into the heavens. Into a glorious place, no less. And I didn't tell you to bow down and worship her, right? You saw no image, you make no image. I'm a loving God. I love my children all the same, but you were to uphold my laws. You were not to transgress my holy covenant, which is the laws of God, and you did so. That is why you get the lawless one, the lawless Satan, fallen Adam, going, I'm God, I'm writing laws, I'm taking your rights from you, woman. I never had any, I'm God. That's the mystery of lawlessness. And if he truly wants to be preserved, he will receive the truth. But I'll tell you, a proud and boastful man, he can't. He cannot. I've watched them. They're so smart, they're stupid. Yeah, right along with the little harlots that's willing to raise this idol up. But is that everything? I did have one other word right here that I wanted to share with y'all. I mean, I could share a lot of things. It's anger and indignation, wrath. And I spoke on this once before, but I didn't give you the word, and I think it is this word now. And it's Strong's Greek 3709. I may have did it in a video a long time ago on Ruth Abbey. I did a lot of topics on Ruth Abbey, and though I remember doing them, I would never be able to find them. So this is Strong's Greek 3709. It means wrath, anger, and indignation. So I did speak on the indignation of the Lord. And it is the feminine Lord. This is a noun feminine. It does happen to be feminine. Anger anger, wrath, passion, punishment, and vengeance. But it's the further understanding of this word that really does relate it to the feminine aspect, because she says in Isaiah 42, the restrainer, she says, long time have I been silent. Now we know that the Lord is long suffering, that none should perish. And as a mother does not want to see any of her children perish. She really don't. And she's very faithful and true to her covenant. She wants to see equity flourish in the land for the sake of all of her children, not just for half the population or even for less than half. Those men at the bottom, and let's face it, we women are really at the true bottom with our children. But those lower men who are at the bottom, what you would call bottom feeders, they really don't have, the rights that they were intended to have as well. So, as a man, a righteous man, you should be able to see that for yourself as well. It's those boys at the top who has fed out a religious lie that they knew that was going to make them a lot of money and give them a great deal of power. And that the lower men were probably going to do really all the hard work for him anyway and keep that little woman in line. Or not. Because we do get some really good, loving, kind-hearted men. Their numbers are very few, but they do exist. They are there. I really believe in their heart of hearts. They truly do love women, and they respect them in a way that most of us women don't see. So, anyway, so we get the feminine here: anger, wrath, passion, punishment, vengeance, meaning to stretch out or reach forth, indicating a passionate impulse or desire, often translated as anger or wrath, meaning wrath or indignation. And when you learn the truth of the mystery of lawlessness, if it don't make you indignant, I don't know what would. In the New Testament, orge primarily refers to a settled and abiding condition of mind, often with a view to taking vengeance. It is used to describe both human and divine anger. Human anger can be sinful, but divine wrath is always just and righteous, reflecting God's holiness and justice. So when the women cry out for equality, we're talking the righteous women. We're not talking those that are what's the word? Oh my gosh, I can never find the word I'm looking for. Who are really oh my gosh. Who are really fanatical, we'll say. And we get the fanaticism of men just based on the law system today. We know that the fanaticism of the masculine existed from the beginning because he's put that yoke on our neck. I'm not saying that there cannot be fanatical feminists or women who go to the extreme on that. I do think that there does need to be that middle ground of fairness and truth and equity without going to the extreme on both sides of that. There has to be that law of fairness and truth that exists, and it's only going to exist in the minds of the righteous women and righteous sons, which are promised actually to be preserved. Not those who wants to step up and say, as one of my commenters, Anita, said, your body, my choice. Well, now that does not sound like a righteous man to me. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like a wicked prick. That's what it sounds like. Is it hard to kick against those pricks, women? No. You know what you feel? Indignation. They have no right. None. And it says it's going to become a growing indignation and wrath. The more they push, the more they're going to draw out our wrath, according to these words. So in the New Testament, we get reflecting God's holiness and justice. Cultural and historical background. And these are new additions on Bible Hub. I really like them, at least for me, that I have found. They might have always been there, but they were never there for me to see. In the Greco-Roman world, anger was often seen as a powerful emotion that could lead to destructive actions if not controlled. Indeed, it did. Men likes to talk about the emotions of women, how she gets so dizzy-headed, but anger is an emotion that he has never controlled. He has created war. He has created law and hatred against womankind under that law that he's allowed to let go because he's really not righteous and really in control of himself. Why do you think you got so many hookers walking the streets? Because women loves to be debased. No, it's because he can't keep it in his pants. Come on. And they robbed her of her rights. We see what human slavery has done. The human trafficking has done to women. It has done it to the boys and men, but on a far lesser scale than what it has done to women. It has forced them out there. And why? Oh, because the sake of man can't keep it in his pants. And you know what? The law says he doesn't have to. Oh, they say, but they really do something on the other hand, don't they? And that's really what it is. Could lead to destructive actions if not controlled. That's what war does. And again, you get the allegory of the Red Sea. Sea is peoples. Why is it red? It's red because of all the bloodshed that his lawless law has caused in the land. It's allowed him to create war. It's allowed him to create divisions amongst the people where we just hate each other and want to tear each other apart. That's bloodshed in amongst the peoples. And it's because of the law that he brought into play that was never supposed to be on his tongue. What right do you have, man, to hold my statutes on your tongue? You have no right, you wicked man. So, philosophers like Aristotle discussed the importance of moderating anger. In Jewish thought, God's wrath was understood as a response to sin and disobedience, which is exactly what women's growing indignation is. It is God's wrath in response to sin and his disobedience. A theme that is consistent through the Old Testament and carried into the New. Well, we know that they wrote and added and added and added and built that idol, which is what the words are. So that's why I'm not too concerned about breaking all of the Bible down. I was looking for the fundamental truth. That's what I was looking for. And that's how you're going to present your case. I don't have to break everything down in there. I don't have to get all the allegory this way, that way. All I got to do is understand the basic components of what is coming from a righteous God. That's what I got to do. So 3709 to team, swelling up to constitutionally oppose. And that's exactly what God's wrath. We also know that God, the presence of God on earth, are the righteous daughters reborn. So we're going to get a swelling up to constitutionally oppose. So the women are going to grow in number, and they're going to be a wave that the men are not going to be able to stop, and they're going to be shocked at how powerful these women can build and become. It says it's a wrath that once stirred up just a little will settle him right down. So that just a little bit of her wrath, right? That's how great her wrath can get to be. Properly settled anger or opposition, rising up from an ongoing and fixed opposition. Settled anger proceeds from an internal disposition which steadfastly opposes someone or something based on extended personal exposure. See? God says, look around with your eyes. You'll be able to understand and see my truth in the land. And you can. You absolutely can see it by your personal and extended personal exposure to this man-made wicked law, i.e. solidifying what the beholder considers wrong, unjust, and evil. God, stand up for your cause. It's time the women did that. Or it comes from the verb orego, meaning to teem or to swell. And she's going to. And thus implies that it is not a sudden outburst. That's right. She doesn't go, boom, I'm mad. It takes a sudden grow of it. Like, not a sudden, I'm saying that wrong. It's a slow growing anger. God's wrath is. And that's woman. Right? She says, long time have I, the restrainer, held my peace. But now my indignation is growing towards you boys, referring to God's fixed, controlled, passionate feeling against sin, a settled indignation or opposition. This is a court case. Our advocate isn't no idol called Jesus. That is not our advocate. The comforter is the spirit she, who's going to witness against this lawless system created by the first man who rejected her law off of her tongue. He didn't want it. His pride. And you've got a choice. She says, yea once, yea twice, I'll speak. The stone rejected in the beginning comes at the end. And if you want to reject her, hey, that's your problem. But when the overflowing scourge, when the angel army comes in to cut you away, you won't say you weren't given a choice. So anger, I'm not going to go through these. These are all the notes. It's quite extensive there. Anger, indignation, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. It's from origome, properly desire, as a reaching forth or excitement of the mind. By analogy, a violent passion. Oh, can women get violent? Yeah. I heard of this case. It says by implication, punishment, anger, indignation, vengeance, and wrath. But I heard of this case, I believe it was in India. And there was this small little village, and there was this wicked little hoodlum and his little gang of men. And they would go in this little village, and they would rape whatever woman they wanted to rape. Young, old, it didn't matter. If there was a man in the house, didn't matter. He had to witness it and watch it. And basically what was taking place is the police force was doing nothing. Doing absolutely nothing. They were being bought off by this hoodlum. Well, finally, the women got their day in court. Finally, they got their day in court because he murdered a woman. And they finally got that case brought before the judge. Well, you know what the judge did? He tossed it out. Well, the judge might have thought he was going to toss it out. And this smug little hoodlum, they claim, was laughing the whole time, threatening the village. I'm coming after you women. And this gang of women was standing outside the courtroom. And when they heard the verdict, you know what they did? They killed him. He didn't get far. And it wasn't a kind death. The women and the men together took their justice and their indignation out on all the wrongness that the men were allowing to go on. So, hey, you can pretend you're in charge, but you want to look out when you get a whole tribe of women really mad. And they were justified. They were justified to do what they did. And you can say, no, they're not. Oh, yes, for every season, there is a time. Speak of the indignation of the true God. It's been controlled. Her anger has been controlled. She has been silent a long time. But if these hoodlums thinks they're going to go again, oh, yea once, yea twice, I'll speak, and then my wrath. So to reach out, yeah. There we go. There we go. Yeah. So there's the video. Longer than I intended. Lately, my videos are longer than I intend them to be. My hair's a mess. Thank you for being here and watching the video. I think there's a time to stand and be counted. And I think we're in that time. I think you want to be counted at this time. I think you want to be numbered in the righteous, because soon that overflowing scourge is going to come in. Very soon. May not be in my lifetime. I don't really know. God's time frame is very different than our own. You know, and that's what kind of confuses us. And it's only just starting, you know, to understand by putting the passages together, which we should have done a long time ago. We've been a long time at doing this. We have. Too long. Too long. We should have been speaking up and witnessing against what was going on a long time ago. Anyway, thanks for watching. I pray the Lord blesses you all with an abundance of truth And I hope you all do have a lovely day and are blessed. And thanks again for watching.